General Anton Slavik. He's Nod, he's a butcher, and at the moment he's our partner. Cabal has turned on its masters. Nod soldiers are dying by Cabal's hands. And as sweet as the sound of dead Nod zealots might be, they're only being recycled to come back at us under Cabal's command. Eva, report.
Using GDI and Nod scan data, we have pinpointed Cabal's core. Data traffic indicates that all commands are originating from this location.
Right. Now look at what we're up against. We can't get close. However, there are 2 ancillary facilities that support the main base. A joint effort assault has been planned. One by us, one by Nod. Dr. Boudreau, if you will.
Although the operation on Colony 6 was a relative success, Cabal is attacking civilian settlements. He kills the old and the infirm and takes the rest for consumption into his army. The Daedalus team and I have implanted one of Cabal's cyborgs with a virus that will infect his production stations.
Commander, your target area is a cyborg processing facility. We need you to get that cyborg into that complex.
Yes. Once inside the facility, the modified cyborg can be interfaced with Cabal's system and infect the production cycle.
Once you accomplish that, I want the entire area swept. Take that complex out completely.
Reinforcements.
Welcome back, Commander.
Input directive.
As the briefing noted, we've got a bit of an escort mission with us today.
Sir? Input directive. Process.
While the briefing did mention that there is a strike by Nod as well, it's not something that we will ever see on the map itself. It's something that you only really experience by playing both campaigns. Playing this over, it kind of makes me wonder what exactly, what part of humans do the cyborgs really need? If they can be reprogrammed, is it still a matter of, keeping the brain intact, or am I missing something? Then again, maybe it's not something to really think about too hard. It won't get too much fanfare, or at least I'm sure I've mentioned some things about it. The Reaper is something we see more and more commonly. In a way, it kind of feels like the further we get into the campaign, the less regular people are left available for Nod forces, or more specifically for Cabal to do anything. I'm not quite sure what exactly dictates when the AI should become subservient to the player, when they should attack each other, or just hunt you down. I figure maybe it's a time-based thing, but I don't really know. Interesting to note though, unless it's a bug, cyborgs are also capable of being caught in a Reaper's nest. Or net. Not nest.
Unit reporting. Yes, sir. Comlink open. Input direct.
I suppose, despite the cyborg's enhanced capabilities of not being able to be crushed by vehicles, surviving Tiberium and all that, they're still infantry after all.
Waiting orders. Unit ready. Sir, orders received. Unit ready.
That scene's also rather gruesome. but not the first time we've seen humans being directly harvested for other purposes.
Waiting orders. Unit ready.
Infantry reporting. I'm on it.
Sir, orders received. Unit ready. Moving out. Waiting orders.
Now,
Sir.
it's kind of interesting that the game would just give you 2 trucks and then have them immediately explode, but I always kind of wondered why that would be the case.
Sir?
Construction.
Wouldn't it just be easier to give you like an extra $3,000 at the start? Like, why have a trigger spawn vehicles to require a second trigger to explode those vehicles to then do some other stuff?
Construction complete.
It just seems convoluted.
Sir?
Sir, got it.
New construction options. Training.
Unit reporting.
Building.
On my way.
I also have to admit, I'm not quite sure what trigger
Waiting orders. Unit ready.
determines when the AI just sells its stuff. I guess I kind of just was expecting them to keep all their buildings, but maybe it's also one of those cases where they don't want all these power plants lying around being free captures for the player.
Sir, you got it.
Units ready. By your command engaged in.
Unit
Unit
lost.
ready.
Either that was a glitch, or there just does not seem to be a graphic / sprite for cyborgs whenever they get netted. Specifically for cyborgs that have lost their torso, or their bottom,
You got it.
their legs.
Infantry reporting. Got it.
Base under attack.
Out and infantry reporting. You got it.
Every time you hear those alarm sounds, by the way, it's just a friendly reminder that they're harvesting more people for cyborgs.
Reporting. Unit ready.
Construction complete. Building.
Infantry reporting.
Construction
Flying.
complete.
Yeah.
You got it.
Infantry reporting.
As always, you're kind of going to be stuck building your base. And frankly, the area I decided to lay down everything was pretty poor.
Waiting orders.
This wall blocks a large section that you can build on. There's not much that you can really do in that space anyways.
Cyborg production.
You're not particularly close to any Tiberium fields.
Waiting orders.
If there was some way to maybe get an engineer really quickly and capture one of the nod buildings where my base is set up, at least you could be afforded that sort of building ancillary buildings safely in the back with Tiberium refineries and having your production closer up to the enemy base.
Construction complete. New construction
Sir?
options.
Unit reporting. Unit ready.
Infantry reporting. Orders.
Waiting orders.
There is one method, at least certainly one divulged in the walkthrough I have, where
Unit lost.
because of the distance your base is going to be if you set up automatically, one of the quote-unquote tricks you can do is building carryalls
Waiting ready. You got it.
and using the carryall to effectively transport the harvester from your refinery to a Tiberium field. That's nice and all, but it has to be remembered that it involves quite a bit of micromanagement.
Unit ready. On my way. Sir, orders received. Waiting orders, sir.
All that being said, though, there is something to be attributed to actually investing in air units.
Unit reporting.
The further we've gone along, it seems more and more obvious that there's not quite as many defenses against air units for Cabal and his gang.
Waiting orders. Waiting orders. Waiting orders. Waiting orders. Sir? Unit reporting.
I can't seem to find any mention if
Reporting.
anything special happens
Destroy
if all the
cyborg
civilians get
construction
converted, we'll say.
Waiting orders. Unit reporting.
Frankly, if I remember correctly, they continue harvesting regardless if people show up, or at least they get their free units spawn in every once in a while. If you're having trouble on this map, one surefire way to reduce any effectiveness out of Cabal's troops, just go around and destroy all the bridges. Well, provided they can blow up anyways. Annoyingly, it seems like the bridges have a lot of HP. It's one of those unique attributes you can give to a unit. Just increase their HP or increase their armor so that they take less damage, so on. It's just like how sometimes vein holes just take forever to die from a juggernaut. Yeah, you'll probably want to invest in some Disrars at some point, because that's a nasty rush of, what, at least 10 attack bikes? Yeah, so it seems like these bridges can't be repaired, which kind of sucks. I guess the idea is that they don't want to lock the player out from being able to cross the river, but if that was the case, then why wouldn't you just have a repair post? Like, it's not like repair huts don't exist, and we've seen them used in scripted sequences and everything. Well, in any case, if you can destroy the bridges, or manage to somehow, do so, because, well, air power and hover MRLSs are pretty much the only thing you really need for this mission. There's also something to be said for carryalls and disruptors just being dumped in an enemy base. Oh, and yeah, be careful with the carryalls because they can easily die. So far that Juggernaut has been against that vein hole for how long now? Probably just one of those things where it has a, well, either invincibility or a ton of HP. Hopefully, at this point, I'm kind of hoping it doesn't die, because otherwise I'd probably be really sad about the entire endeavor.
Yes, sir. Unit reporting. Orders received. Unit ready. Sir. Unit ready.
Ah, the wonders of a disruptor.
Unit ready.
Obviously, if you can, build an EM pulse cannon near or nearer the enemy base, just so you can continuously lock them down and harass them that way.
Waiting orders, sir. Waiting orders. Pilot ready. Sir. Pilot reporting. Sir? Sir? Unit ready. You got it. No problem. Unit ready. On my way.
Unit ready. Select target.
Sir. Unit ready.
Now, the only problem with using disruptors this way
Sir.
simply is the fact that, well, carryalls and disruptors are very expensive together.
Deploy here.
So there's only so much you can realistically do with them.
Sir. You got it. Unit reporting.
It's also not that unexpected to have them get swarmed by units.
Yes, sir. No problem. Unit ready.
If only these disruptors were generals, and then they'd explode in a great blaze of glory.
Building.
Yes, sir. No problem.
Well, in any case, another thing I've noticed, and we'll see later on, is this is probably one of the better missions to ever use the patrol function. Granted, you have a couple SAM sites to deal with, which is a little bit annoying, but if you can knock out the construction yard and power, you're kind of free to do whatever you want.
Over and out. Unit on my way.
Insufficient
Yes, sir.
funds.
Waiting.
Unit
Waiting.
lost.
Pulse.
Building captured. New construction options.
Oh, and you can do
Structure.
strikes like this that just kind of ruin everything for them.
Building.
Ready.
Construction complete.
Over and out. Orders received.
Building. Construction
Waiting orders.
complete. Building. Unit repaired.
Sequence engaged.
Repairing.
Ready.
Unit repaired.
Awaiting orders.
It is a little curious to see a
Unit ready.
large number of gray/neutral units in the Nod base. I kind of wonder if there's anything you can do to change that.
Construction complete. Unit repaired.
Sir.
Repairing.
Sir.
Maybe it's just the fact that there's no relay system down there,
Repairing.
or maybe I'm just hoping for a little bit of an easier time on this map.
Awaiting orders. Over and out. Over and out. Pilot reporting.
Harvester under attack.
Pilot reporting. On my way.
Repairing.
Sir.
Unit ready.
Awaiting orders.
Insufficient funds. Repairing. Destroy the cyborg production plant. Insufficient
orders.
funds.
I'm honestly amazed that Vanehole isn't dead yet.
You got it.
Pilot reporting.
And also one of the reasons why it's probably better off to just stick to hover MLRSs.
Sir.
Unit ready. Yes, sir. Sir?
The fact that they're pretty good against all vehicles, and they do extremely well against cyborgs as well, just means that there's not necessarily no counter by Cabal's forces,
Funds.
Unit ready.
but they kind of just do everything you need them to do.
Awaiting orders.
And you don't have to worry about them being as slow as Titans, and as vulnerable to, Tiberium veins as Titans are. Well, any vehicle really, but
Awaiting orders.
Sequence engaged. Awaiting orders.
Unit ready.
Sir?
I think this is going to be another one of those moments where I just give up on this, because I don't think that Vanehole is ever going to die.
Unit ready.
Sir.
I'm also trying to remember exactly where some of these
Ready.
power plants are, which is a little easier said than done.
Pilot reporting. Sir. Ready. Pilot reporting.
Unit ready. Need assistance.
Unit
Yes,
lost.
sir. Yes, be glad to. Sir?
Oh hey, it's one of the rare instances where hover MRLS, whatever, manages to spawn a technician.
Unit ready. Awaiting orders.
We've seen it maybe like once with the Tic Tank.
Sir? Yes, sir. Unit report. Sir? On my way.
It's nothing special really.
Destroy the
It's a
cyborg production
extra
plant.
unit, just has a pistol. Can't really accomplish much really. Oh, and if anything, the only reason why I haven't been able to bust through the Nod forces yet, mostly just because they've got a ton of artillery, and they still have a lot of Tic Tanks. Enough that I'm not necessarily comfortable throwing away
Unit
all of this money banked up in these units.
repairing.
I'm also not quite sure what just exploded.
Unit repaired. Repairing. Unit ready.
Sir. Sir. Waiting orders. Ready. Waiting
Unit repaired.
orders received.
Repairing.
Sequence engaged.
Unit repaired. Building. Repairing.
Ready.
Building.
Waiting orders.
Unit ready.
Ready.
Orders received. Sir.
Construction complete.
Unit ready.
Unit
Waiting.
repaired.
On my way. Pilot. On my way. Waiting orders. Pilot report. Away we go.
This is mostly me trying to stop the production facility,
Pilot reporting.
but, well,
Waiting.
the accuracy of Orca bombers leaves a little something to be desired.
Waiting orders.
I guess technically it's not strictly their accuracy, but, you know, the staggered nature of their attacks is, leaves a lot to be desired.
Yes, sir. Ready.
And, yeah, apologies still for the black bar at the bottom. That's just a holdover from a stream thing that, for whatever reason, I never really remembered it was
Destroy
there.
Cyborg production
Oops.
plant.
Waiting orders.
Unit ready. On my way. Unit On my way. Ready. Unit ready. Unit reporting. Sir?
Unit ready. Unit lost. Unit lost.
Ready. Orders received. Pilot. Yes, sir. Waiting orders. Orders received,
ready.
sir.
Now, for all the gripes I might have against Orca Bombers, and again, their staggered deployment of attack, when you can find 3 power plants lined up in a row like that, that's pretty nice.
Sir. On my way. Yes, yes, sir. Now, orders received. Over now. Yes, now. Yes, over now. Orders received.
All you have to really do is target the middle one and, yeah, watch havoc reign.
Ready. Waiting orders.
Unit reporting.
Building. On hold. Building.
Sir? Unit report.
Again, once the Nod or Cabal base is depowered, you should absolutely be setting up patrols for your Orca Bombers. I have to admit, we're going to see something, well, probably like 3 or 4 years from now, which I was hoping destroying that dam would replicate. Well, I guess probably not replicate, but do first? Either way, we'll see it, I'm sure, eventually. Now, again, to get a patrol route set up, you're going to want to create waypoints, so you have to remember your W key exists. After you create a circular path, you want to make sure it's Control-Shift-G, no, not Control-Shift-G. It's like Control-Shift and then right-click on the waypoint. You'll know it by the shield icon that pops up next to the waypoint. Once you do that, those vehicles are just going to keep finding or following the pattern, attack the nearest, I guess, unit. I don't think they ever targeted enemy units. Either way, they find their first target, go after that, and yeah, they go back to the base eventually, reload. Once they're loaded back up, they come back into the pattern and continue their work. It's actually fairly straightforward, and I can see why you'd want to spend at least a marginal amount of money on base defense in any game, really. Skirmish, single player, if you've got the availability of air power, then why not use it? Again, really kind of wish those neutral units would rise up or do something. Having them just sit there and take hits from my Orca Bombers just feels a little lame.
Sir, loud and clear.
Sir? Unit ready. Waiting order.
Yeah, that Orca Bomber definitely had ammo, but there's something about it not always wanting to attack buildings. I guess the guard function only works against units, which makes sense, but kind of sucks when you're using it for this purpose.
Unit ready.
Also, somehow they just spawn a bunch of harpies in midair. Easy cannon fodder, I guess.
Sir?
Base under
Pilot
attack.
reporting. Ready.
Units ready.
Pilot waiting orders. Yes, sir.
Unit reporting. Unit reporting.
Destroy all Cabal forces. Mission accomplished.